Hello. Focused on Dan and David. Hello and welcome to the March 17th Northfield Select Board meeting. We're calling this meeting to order at 6:06. We just had to get all of our technical ducks in a row because we have a guest with us for one of the topics. So we're going to get started with Chief Hall and your request to appoint Brandon Garvey as a part-time police officer.
How's everyone?
Good.
So it should be quick. It's up to you.
Poor
but
Brandon, he was ready to go 2 weeks ago. Had a snowstorm, so sorry about that.
I was able to break up my St. Patrick's Day tie for today.
Excellent.
As you stated, I'm bringing it before the select board. I'm hoping to hire Brandon here part-time. Brandon came looking for some hours, and it was great timing for us. So, yeah, I don't see any downside to it, but if you have any questions, in the meantime, Brandon, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. I'm originally from Hampden County. I lived in East Longmeadow, Wilbraham, kind of in the lower portion. Never really ventured up this way until I met my wife at 27. She lived in Amherst, and then we kind of moved from there, moved back to Wilbraham, then came back up. We built a house over in South Deerfield and kind of set up our roots, had our son. I worked at Holyoke Community College. Dale Brown was actually my chief over there for the time that I worked. I moved over to Greenfield and then eventually landed in Irving, and then came over to here, applied over here. My wife works over at Northfield, Mount Herman, and a good majority of the people that I work with on a daily basis work for Northfield PD, and really just kind of looking to spend more time in the area and get to know the people of Northfield and the community.
Great. Any questions from the board?
Is this filling the weekends, Friday, Saturday, Dad?
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit flexible. So as he stated, Dale Brown was the officer, full-time officer that just resigned. So, but he's going to stay on part-time, but he also works part-time for Sunderland. So I'm not sure what hours he's going to land on. It also depends on some things that I can't anticipate. One thing would be like Sergeant Kowalski's, his wife is pregnant and they're going to have a kid at some point. So there's going to be family medical leave there, and he would fill in some hours at that point. Our two part-timers have full-time jobs, so they don't really work Monday through Friday because they already work in their full-time jobs. Brandon will be able to fill in some of those gaps, so we're hoping to have him on some of the evenings, probably Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, but something like that. And also, I have to look at the budget to make sure I don't go over budget with the hours that we're going to utilize him for, but it does help our budget to utilize a part-timer to fill overtime as opposed to paying a full-timer overtime.
Gotcha.
I was just going to say, did you allow for this in your next year's budget?
Yeah, I have a request for them. Oh, this is good. It won't affect that decision. But I did ask the financial committee to consider extra money to have an extra shift or two towards part-time officer. I think that I didn't have time at that point. I just got off the plane to do the numbers in my head. But since then, I've looked at it, and I think we went up 10 hours.
Yeah, it's
a week for
22-hour total, I think is what it is.
Yeah, it went up 10 hours,
Yeah.
so which comes out to like, I don't know, $13,000 or something like that a year to have extra coverage, which means that for me, I like to have two officers on. So on some of the days, maybe on Tuesday, it would be Detective Weaver working with Brandon. So
I was really interested to see your special training in sexual assault investigation.
Yeah.
I think it's so great to have people who have different things, different specialties, and foci for our staff. So congratulations to you, and good job, Chief, finding people that have that broad specialization.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was going to be my question too, because that usually involves quite a bit of training.
Yeah.
So I feel, especially for Northfield, especially lucky that not only is he the only one, or somebody else has sexual assault training too.
we
right?
all do now.
You all do. Oh, okay.
Yep.
Wow.
Oh, I didn't know that
Wow.
Yeah, well, there's some PDs that don't have any
Yeah.
at all, but that was kind of one of the goals that we set, that we would all go to attend to that training. So
Well, we
great.
do have a department. You're going to be back for another meeting because we're going to do a department update plus
Yeah.
talk about Millers Falls Road, so we can get up to speed on I didn't realize everybody was chained in it either, so that's good news. Good news for
Yeah.
Northfield.
Yep, and it's
Yeah.
good news for us because, you never know when someone's gonna leave, like Dale Brown stepped down and left, and then we got really lucky and got an area police officer to come over, and that's a really great hire.
Yep.
But if we do have someone leave, now we have 3 possible part-timers that could take the full-time position.
Yep.
And I don't have to go and do the gamble, which is every time I put it out there, I'm like, oh, I hope I don't get the wrong person.
Right.
So, but
Right.
in this way, we already work with the person, we'll know if it's the right fit or not even beforehand.
Good. Okay. Any other questions? Ready to move forward? Great. Can we entertain a motion to,
Yeah, I'll make a motion to appoint Brandon Garvey as a part-time police officer. Term expires 12/31/2026.
Second.
motion and a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
When does he start? Tomorrow night or what?
Yes.
I know Oleg was like,
He'll start with Sergeant Kovalinski.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you again.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
Thank you.
Okay, on to the next thing. Franklin Land Trust Conservation Restriction for the Goodwin property. Hi.
How's it going?
Good, how are you?
Good. My name is Liam Cregan. I work for Franklin Land Trust. We're based in Shelburne Falls. We've been around since 1987, although I was born in 1993, so I wasn't around then. I've been with the Land Trust since 2023. And we were approached by Daniel Goodwin, who grew up with his brother Tim on Glen Road in Northfield.
Mm-hmm.
And Daniel and his brother want to conserve their land with the Franklin Land Trust. So what they're hoping to do is donate a conservation restriction on their land, which would be granted to the Franklin Land Trust so they can keep the land as a farm, essentially. It's one of the last kind of family farms that has a house on it in the center of Northfield. And it was their mother's intention that it get conserved as a farm, Shirley Nelson. So they're hoping to do that. Are folks familiar with conservation restrictions as a document? So essentially what it is it still remains in private ownership, but the landowner gives up certain rights, namely to development. And the purpose for doing it in this case is the agricultural soils on the property. So it's about, I think, 12-acre agricultural field. Last year, Dan's brother Tim did butternut squash. I know this year he's doing a more mixture of crops. And then in the lower parcel, there is also some ag land, but also it's really important riparian habitat on the Mill Brook, and it's close to the Connecticut River floodplain. It's in the Connecticut River floodplain.
Mhm.
So as part of the process of approving these documents and making them permanent, the select board needs to approve them and sign them, essentially. So I'm here to answer any questions you all have about the restriction, what it means for the land, and then also if you're amenable to request that you sign and approve the document.
Great. Any questions?
I don't have any.
I did check the charts and that, and it does have all the proper easements shown on the diagrams and that, and all the, acknowledgement that there are easements. I'm on the sewer commission also.
Right.
So I made sure that everything coming in, especially across the Millbrook, because we have a siphon there that is gonna need some work.
Yeah, I heard that you're gonna be doing some work up there
Yeah,
soon,
so I
right?
wanted to make sure it had the proper easements, which it does.
Mhm. Yeah, we had a great surveyor, Eric Findell. He did all the research, and he may have been in touch with the sewer commission at some
No, I
point.
didn't,
Okay.
but I looked at the thing and I did, see, he mentioned one other pipe, but that's a service pipe and that's the homeowners.
Okay.
It's not used anymore.
Is that the pipe?
It's not
on the
They
used.
got
coast?
discontinued, they dug their own well.
Oh,
They used
okay.
to run from the bottom of Pentecost all the way across to Marvin Holloway's house.
Mhm.
And it's somewhere, it got a hole in it, and she didn't want to pay to fix it. So the
Okay.
easement might still be there,
Yeah,
but
it's
it's
an
not,
easement.
it's not.
But there was a
used anymore.
sewer
It is turned
easement.
off.
There was also a sewer
Yeah.
easement.
There's, the water
Somewhere.
part is turned off by
Yeah.
us. Yep.
Okay, yeah.
Good to know.
Yeah, so there's a lot going on in terms of easements. I mean,
Mhm.
Shirley, she granted, well, there's the Glen Road easement, and then there's all the sewer easements. And yeah, she did a lot. It looks like for the town, especially like she sold off some land for the post office, which is nice.
I didn't realize she did that.
I think that was in the late '60s or early '70s.
Well, it's nice because I know when I go to the post office, that is beautiful property. Like if you park your car and just look out there for a
Oh,
few
yeah, it's
minutes,
lovely.
it's really nice.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions
No,
or
not at
comments?
all.
You asked my question about sewer easements, so we're good. Those don't get affected in any way, shape, or form. Those stay in place.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're pre-existing to
Yeah.
the CR. So any of those rights that still exist, the sewer commission will still be able to maintain those
Okay.
easements. Yeah.
Okay. And then I noticed there was conservation.
You're coming before Conscom tomorrow, right?
I talked to them in the fall.
Oh, okay.
There's
so
a document in there with
Yeah.
signatures.
Yeah, so
right?
that's called the municipal certification
Okay.
document. It's not a requirement, but we usually introduce the project by talking to the conscom and just talk about some of the conservation values of the land, tell them about the project, and I talked to them sometime in the fall, and they signed the letter to say they're supportive of the project.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Great. Anything else?
Not many.
Would you like to move forward with a motion? Looking at the board? Since I can't read the agenda,
You can't read the
somebody's
agenda?
going to have to do the motion.
Make a motion to, are we approving their, what are we
Restriction.
doing? We're just accepting, right?
Yeah, and
Approving.
signing
signing.
the document.
Okay.
Approving it, yeah.
Approving and signing.
The Franklin Land Trust Conservation Restriction, take ownership of the,
We will not take ownership. We will hold an interest in the land now. It's essentially like holding an easement.
you're holding
over
the
land.
conservation, and the people are still holding the land, right?
Correct, yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so I flubbed it twice.
That's okay.
Make a motion to accept the Franklin Land Trust Conservation Restriction oversight for the Goodwin property.
Correct.
Second.
Good.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Uh,
Aye. Okay, so we will sign that.
Also, because we're not very active in town lately, I brought some newsletters. I don't know if there's a good place to put them in town hall.
You can put it on the table downstairs, maybe.
yeah, I can take it.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Oh, do you have the,
No.
Any other que-
is it in the pile over there?
I believe he's all set, correct?
Yeah, but we've got to
But
sign
we gotta
the-
sign it and send it.
Yeah, I
right?
want to
We've
sign
got to
it
send
before.
it anyway because it has to be notarized.
Okay, so I'll get up and
Yeah,
I'll
we'll
get it
let
in
you
the
know.
mail.
Sandra will reach out and say it's been,
Yeah, I don't see it here.
It's in there, but it has to be notarized, but we have to have it notarized from them too, don't we?
Okay.
Okay, yeah, I can pick it up. If that might be easiest.
yeah, well, do you have his contact information, Sandra? Well, why don't you just,
Yeah, great. Sounds good. Okay, well, thank you guys so much. I really
Thank
appreciate
you.
Get it.
Thanks for explaining it. Here,
you may have to print that
I'll
out
look
before
for
Is it in there
that.
somewhere?
they leave.
I
I do
thought.
have a copy. I brought a copy of
I
your
have one in
signature
my
page,
office.
if that would be helpful.
Probably.
Beautiful.
Okay. Let me just, I'm pretty sure there's no actual wet signatures in here, but let me double check. So page 21. I'll just pass that there.
Thank
Great. Thank you guys so much again.
thank
Appreciate it.
you. Okay. Thanks.
I must have been away when
So-
he came that day because I don't recognize that.
That is,
Maybe I did. Maybe I'm just.
What was
losing my
that?
mind. Nothing.
Oh,
no, I was the only thing I was thinking of, their copy as far as that is, they may need to change it, or if they're living in Georgia, because they're looking for a notary. If you look on page 19.
all right. So, Andrea, can I just double check we can sign this now, or you want us to come in and sign it?
I think you can sign it now.
Okay. I know we've done this before. It's just been a while. Here.
Did you want me to stamp it? I can,
If
but
you
I
don't
can't
sign
sign
it.
it.
All right. Let's do that.
Yeah, you can do it after the meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, well, you do it after the meeting.
Okay.
You broke the tether.
All right, yeah, we'll be in touch about me picking it up.
Yeah, Sandra will let you know. You get it
Okay, thank you.
Stamped and sealed by,
Oh, yeah, that's important. On a windy day.
Oh, that's right.
Is the form not in the?
It was in the packet.
It was in the packet, it's not,
Oh.
no,
I
it's
mean,
not,
in the folder.
it's not in the folder.
He
That's
got us
okay.
one, Sandra.
That's okay.
Why can't you sign it?
He's gonna
Notary.
notarize
He's
it.
gonna notarize. Okay, we're gonna put it back in the folder for safekeeping. Okay, great, Chief Wolkenbright. Where is he? Oh. For a minute there, I thought you might have had a call or something.
Just a nap. Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, so you're gonna give us an update on the site. It's been a while since you, and things are moving forward.
Yeah, so evening, everybody. Tonight is about the building in 4139 Main Street. So as we talked last time I was here-ish, the site has been, or 39 Main Street has been raised, and the site's been leveled and cleaned by our amazing highway folks through the winter. So it's all clean and safe and there. Our building continues to operate with the temporary structure and the garage that we have. And at our meeting of the Building Services Committee last week, we voted to recommend and move forward with a request for quotation for owner's project manager for the project, which basically means that because of procurement laws, the project is over a certain amount, we as a town have to go out and hire somebody to manage this project for us, make sure that we have all of the right checklists and signatures and surveys and everything else, and we go step by step so we're compliant with building codes and purchasing and procurement and everything else. So that proposal has been put out. It was brought to the committee. We're gonna make one tiny little edit with it to just make it a list of here are the things we'd like, rather than having any specifications of size or anything else on it. And that will be going to but to posting later this week, which will release it next week. So that will go up on the state procurement sites. It'll go into the newspaper for advertising. 3 to 4 weeks it'll sit out. We'll invite qualified parties who do project management for this type of thing to send us responses and quotations. 3 to 4 weeks from now, we will bring all of that back. There will be a meeting with the building committee to screen all of the interested parties. Hopefully there are a lot of them, so if you're out there, get ready. We want you. And we'll screen them, we'll rank them, score them, make recommendation, and then just as with hiring of employees, that screening process and all the information will come to the select board as the authority, so to speak, and the hiring group, and you will get a chance to see the recommendations of the Emergency Services Building Committee and all of the interested parties that we've screened, and then take those recommendations and perform interviews to hopefully select an owner's project manager who will then help us as a community move forward with this quest to build a home for Northfield EMS.
Excellent. Skip, did you have anything you wanted to add from a building committee standpoint?
No, and basically Andrea put a packet together for all the committee members, so not only the process, is also the grading that will be done by the committee as far as those documents. Once we get to that point, then once we've graded them and we have the opportunity to interview, then obviously the grading will be turned over to the town administrator board. And then you will have the opportunity to interview the finalists as well. So just a step forward as far as making the process move forward.
And just to be clear about the process, which is clear as mud, but I think I'm learning anyways, and sharing from experiences in the past. The project manager oversees and lays out the next steps for us. So we are not in design, we are not in survey, we haven't done anything other than looked for the person who's gonna help us figure out how to move forward with this project, is the best way I can conceptualize this. I've had a lot of questions from the community, be it at the market or wherever we are, what's happening, where are we at? So the first step, because of procurement law, is to hire the project manager, and then the project manager will help us write the calendar and the objectives and the next steps for this process. So as much as I would love to have a concept drawing and all of that, there is none of that yet. That will come down the road, one step, one hiring, one group at a time.
Right.
So no grand opening date yet?
We're gonna open on the third Thursday of next week, hopefully. If we miss that date, stay tuned for the makeup date.
Right.
Any other questions?
Well, good progress.
Yeah, what's the anticipated cost of this role?
We have no idea.
I'm sorry?
They submit.
They have to submit a quotation for it, so that's the whole point of it. We write what we're looking for, it goes out, and then the people who manage these projects submit a proposal for how much they're going to charge for this.
Okay, so the proposal, this would be a one-time cost for this role and paid up front?
No,
Or we split it? I mean, now, this is a contract, right?
Yes.
Okay, so is it an employee monthly contract? Is it treated like a contractor where we pay in bulk?
Under-
Why don't we have, sorry, Matt, why don't we have Andrea explain it? Because Skip and I were talking about something else today, and I was like, we went through this, 3 years ago? And
Yes, we did.
so this is a request for quotes.
Qualifications.
So can you just explain, because the contract comes later after all of the qualifications and their proposals have
so
been
there's
reviewed, right?
two ways to procure. There's something called an RFQ, and then there's an RFP. An RFP is when you had all specs and you build a building, and you release the specs and you say, here's what I want, give me a price to build it. That's a request for proposals. In other words, we'll build
Okay.
it for this. Designers, engineers, all of that are what they call qualifications. The state law decided that you should be picking the best person for your job, not necessarily the cheapest. You want to pick the person who has the qualifications you want. So you request qualifications, and then separately they'll give you a price quote. Now, first you go through, you pick the qualifications, and you talk about things. And that has to do with milestones. What are they going to do for you? How far are they going to go with you? What are they going to pick for you? And you're going to negotiate that. Once you pick your designer, you say, we like this designer, we like what they're bringing to the table, we like the way they're presenting our project and mirroring it back to us and talking about our community. We want to go with you, you're our number one choice. They're going to give you a price proposal. At that point, the select board will negotiate the price. And it may have to do with tasks. We want you to do this in 3 months, this in 6 months, this in 9 months. They're going to give you like a timeline. And then on top of that, if later you're going to add tasks, they'll tell you how much additional per hour or whatever. So it's not just I can build this for $400,000. It's what do you want? When are we going to do it? What are the milestones? And they will give you a proposal, and you will work that out. You will negotiate that with them. There'll be a basic price proposal, and then you will negotiate that. Having to remember that under the RFQ process, our RFQ is also going to say, we don't want a flat fee, because in there is contingent, if we move forward with further funding to build this, your project manager is going to continue working with you, and that will be a second phase. But we're only interested in the first phase right now, because we haven't gotten to the second phase. So there's a piece that's partly contingent, and you will negotiate that as a separate piece. You don't want to negotiate the whole thing all the way through the building of the building, because you don't know if you're going to build the building. So you
Well,
have
if they were being paid hourly or something, but, so the,
So that usually they're paid on milestones.
On milestones.
So once they get to a certain point, they'll bill you. Once they get to another point, they'll bill you. But they'll give you a calendar that they will move through for the most part. We're going to do this in 6 weeks. We're going to do this at the 3-month mark with it. And those are the milestones.
so you refer to them as a designer and also a project manager. Is this the person that's designing the?
No, they'll help you hire the architect. But by
This is-
law, they have to have certain, to be an OPM, you have to be an engineer.
So you did
Okay.
use the word designer, so you meant OPM because
Correct.
there's similar processes for designers, et
Right, but
cetera.
they'll
But the OPM will do that once they're on
Correct,
board?
but you'll start with
Yeah.
them and you'll say, this is the kind of project we're looking for, and then the committee will meet with them and they'll start talking about, they won't design it, you're not talking bid specs, but before they release a bid for an architect, because they will help you release your bids for architects, your site designers, possibly, surveyors. They will help you to go through that process because that's what they do. And they will work with you to get a sense of what you want because they need to work with the people that they're going to help you hire to give them that sense.
Okay.
So design is a loose term. I don't mean actually design it as an architect. I mean, they will say,
They design the project.
then what scope are you talking about? They'll just do sort of preliminary work with you so that when they bring on board your architect, they're releasing a bid that says to the architect, here's roughly what we're looking for. Make a bid for us.
So we're not giving them any, like when we put out a job, we say this is the pay range. Is that included?
No, you don't give them a pay range.
So we're hiring them
You
with a
negotiate.
blank
No,
check?
you won't hire them until you negotiate the fee. And if you don't like their fee, you move to the second candidate.
All we're doing is asking for interested parties to work with us.
Right.
We're gonna do this project. Who has the qualifications under the Massachusetts regulations to manage a project to come in and help us? Hopefully we get multiple people, multiple organizations that are willing to come in. They're gonna pitch us. We'd like to work with you. This is what we can offer you. This is what we bring to the table in our experience. We sort of get to know a couple of them as I understand the process. And then we start to talk about, okay, if you're gonna work with us, how much would it cost? And that's when the negotiation between the select board and them comes in. This is really just the investigation phase, but the law says we have to have a project manager. So rather than spending money on anything else up front, we should start with this interview process, bring this person on board or this organization on board to help guide us
Yeah.
going forward so we can be effective and efficient.
I
And we're not
agree with an
spending any
interview
money.
process. I just wanted to get an idea of what we thought the cost was going to be for the
Yeah,
town.
no. It's so broken. Oh, do you want to?
No, go ahead, go ahead.
Oh, I was just thinking, this is why I repressed everything from the last project, was because it was so, it's almost like some of the things we've done in the past get broken down even further, like interim steps. So this is just, and Collier's was our last OPM for the public safety complex, right?
Yes.
So I remember when I was on the building committee, we got like a ton of like stacks of proposals
Oh,
and
yeah.
all of that.
Yeah.
And the committee went through all of that, kind of ranked and graded, threw some candidates out, and then brought forth the finalists.
Well, I think they interviewed them.
Yes,
With-
They did a
we
screening
did.
interview.
We did a
They
screening
did,
interview.
and then we did a
graded-
joint
we
one.
graded their proposals.
Yeah.
Okay, and then out of the grading of the proposals, we brought in, I think
Three
it's 3 or 4
finalists.
for an interview of the top graded
Right.
OPM. And we took, I mean, there's a myriad of stuff you have to take a look at, and you're right, there's a stack about this thick of what they submit.
Right.
And then, once you do the interview process, then the bottom line is then we come up with recommendation to the board, and then the board starts the interview process and whatnot as well. And it sounds like, not knowing exactly, what we did with the public safety complex is a kind of a two-step process. The OPM will come in and advise and make sure that we dot all our I's, cross all our T's, and we do the due diligence as far as what will fit, what has to be done, what the first steps are, second, third steps as far as moving the process forward.
And cost?
And then there's an option.
And cost, I
Yeah.
said.
Well, yeah, but then there's also an option, if we come up with and I don't wanna use the word design, if we come up with a concept, okay? Then, the next step would be the design and actually the OPM. It's a decision of the board and probably a recommendation of the committee that if we go to the building stage, that the OPM only makes sense if you've had the OPM from the beginning. That makes sense if they're willing to and their negotiated fees are agreeable. The OPM stage through the process. If not, you'd have to change OPMs for the actual bill.
Okay.
So it's a two-step,
Okay.
two-step process.
At the end of the day, if I heard your concern right, we're not spending any money yet. So yes, we do not have a figure or a range. This is the investigation phase.
Right.
That allows transparency while we develop it all. So we will get to that answer, but we gotta find the people first.
I hear
If
you.
that's
Actually, my
acceptable.
concern was just that we choose somebody kind of sight unseen, not sight unseen, money unseen. And then now we've done all this work for this person and they say, I'm gonna charge whatever I charge, and we negotiate. You know, when you get into court, you don't ever give what you think is a reasonable request. You want the sky, because if you started a reasonable request, you're only gonna go below reasonable. And I worry that we're gonna have people giving us, we start at whatever point this is, rather than looking at the realm of possibility, the realm of what's reasonable. I'm not being accusatory, I am concerned, and I hope that the committee will take that into account when they're looking.
You as the select board have that power, not the committee.
Well, you're looking, when you come with one person,
We
They're
can't,
not.
we have to come with multiple,
Yeah.
just like when we.
They're
do
gonna recommend
anything.
finalists.
okay.
Right.
Yes,
Right.
we will screen from hopefully a large pool down to a reasonable pool, which will be interviewed at least once by the select board to help with that decision and to ensure all of those things are addressed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, Skip?
Just wanna jump in.
Yeah.
real quick. Committee does not hire. The committee does not grade upon the dollar number. What the committee does is the committee looks at all the qualifications and the history and what they have got for experience. And at that point, then that's what we grade on, the company they work for, what their projects have been. There's a lot that goes involved with the grading. Then, once we've done that and we sift out people that we don't think are qualified, don't make the required state requirements, at that point, then we come up with a few finalists that we give the recommendation to the select board, and the select board actually have another interview with the finalists, and it's at that point where they can negotiate with who they think might be the top one or two or three or whatever.
You select one and
That's
negotiate.
That's when you get your costs and your prices.
Okay. If you
So
select,
that's done by you.
Right.
not us.
so the multi-step process ends with us. If I remember correctly, if your top candidate doesn't negotiate to a price that you're interested in, you can go to your second
Correct.
candidate.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
There's something called the designer selection law. We're following a law here. This is not a process that we have discretion.
That we're making
here,
up.
Because they feel when you're designing a large project, you should do it on fit and qualifications and that they meet your specs, as opposed to just picking the cheapest person.
And actually, the person you're hiring is hired to look at the interest of the town.
Correct.
Because they have they have the knowledge to be able to make sure a project goes forward, and they are actually hired by the town to do that. That's their job, to protect the town, make sure everything is going right. If something goes wrong, they report back to the town, and they are our instrument in making sure everything is done right.
That's why they have to be an engineer.
Correct.
They have to be a certified engineer to even
Correct.
be a
Work with
project
a bunch
manager.
of them.
Okay, so when's the next, how long before the next little step comes along?
Well, this, in order, under procurement law, this has
Yeah.
to be put in a central register. It has to go on combis, and we have to publish in the paper. So central register comes out on Wednesdays. I have to submit it by Thursday. So we're hoping next week will be the submittal date. It will come out on, I'll make it active on combis.
Okay.
It'll get in the central register, and we'll publish it in the paper. And then 3 or 4 weeks, I'm gonna back the dates out because we had an old calendar in there. So I have to make some tweaks to the document that you reviewed, because the dates don't work. But that's just dates.
Right.
And then we'll back down, so it'll be 3 or 4 weeks that you'll want it out there.
Okay.
There'll be a question and answer period. I mean, there's a whole process we have to go through. So
So-
it's gonna be a couple of
Okay,
months before.
so as we, so this won't be the end of the story. So as we progress, then we'll have you two come back, and then we'll be at the next step. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. However many, like,
Sorry, I
sub
don't have
steps.
a more detailed, exciting, contextual update, but this is that next step.
Welcome to government.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right.
Appreciate you.
I think I'm gonna, if okay with you guys and with the board, we're gonna skip over the warrants and the minutes and go directly to fire because we've had Russ waiting and we have a whole group of
Thanks, Matt.
Appreciate you.
fire departments. Thank you, Matt. You wanna come up?
Sure.
I'm doing too.
Am I signing this copy as well for the land trust?
I think
Oh, that's the one we were looking for.
it's, you signed one as
Just
far
pick
as.
one.
Sandra
and
brought
sign
it
it.
in, so are we
I
signing
know
this one?
it's in the
As long
pile.
as we have one
I
signed.
knew I printed it.
What is that?
Sarah and I were over here like,
Would you like
I know, I just saw it.
Already signed, sealed. I'll stamp it tomorrow.
I'll give you all this.
There you go.
Oh, this is the one now?
We're all
Okay.
signed.
No, this is the correct one.
So nothing like having like 6 different color-coded folders. Okay,
Sandra, we're signing this one then?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
okay. We'll get it together.
Okay,
Alright.
I think what you're looking for.
Welcome.
Is welcome.
Welcome,
Thank you.
Mike.
Hi, Russ.
Welcome to the whole,
Good evening.
hi, Russ.
Basically, I just want to give an update on our policies and procedures that we're working towards. Russ has given accolades to myself and the department. I don't know as though they're all well-deserved, but the bottom line is we have a very cohesive fire department. And there's been some concern along the way that we want to make sure that just because the leadership is changing, that that dynamic does not change and it does not affect the operation of the fire department nor the quality of personnel and whatnot. So we have a definite commitment from the organization. I think that's probably why some of the firefighters are here. They have a vested interest. We've had several meetings. We've had a couple of meetings with Russ. He's done a very comprehensive overview of the fire department. So the bottom line is he and I have kind of been playing tag back and forth trying to get together, but I submitted to him a draft of what I thought the start of the policies and procedures needed to be, and how the organization has operated and needs to operate as we continue forward. And so one of the big questions that has to be answered is there's two types of chiefs. There's a strong chief and there's a weak chief. And it basically has to do with the interaction of the fire department and the board of selectmen. So we've had a couple of meetings on that. The fire department has had meetings on that. We've discussed things back and forth. So the bottom line is I think we're kind of unique in that the fire department is a part volunteer, part paid. So we are employees of the town, where we're paid when we're on an emergency call. However, there's a lot of duties that are required by an individual firefighter to fulfill their responsibility of being on the fire department. So that's why we're a call volunteer organization. So I kind of broke that down and I sent Russ the draft just to get his input on it. And the organization hopefully will not change tremendously just because the leadership is going to be changing. But that's a work in progress that we want to continue with Russ. I was under the assumption, which I shouldn't have been, I thought once Russ did his overview, that his consultation was done, and that's not the case, I found out. So we're gonna continue to work with Russ, and work through the process. So, we've also taken a look at his SOGs that he has given us as a starting period, so we can get written SOGs on paper.
And SOGs for, are,
Operational.
Standard operating.
Standard operating guidelines.
Yeah.
Okay? And it's operational stuff. There's several of them that are fine just the way he has proposed them. There's some that need some corrections as far as
Yep.
apparatus and responses and that type of stuff. And that's some of the particulars that we need to sit down and go over
Yep.
with Russ and to just bang out some of the
yeah.
the operations of the fire department that need to tweak the SOGs to make
Yeah,
it fit,
yeah.
to make it work.
So you and I had kind of gone through this whole thing too, and then I looked at what your concerns were and what had come up from the fire department,
Yeah.
and then compared them to the task list
Yeah.
that we had all looked at back in December when we met. And just on the SOGs alone, one of the tasks was for the fire department to modify them as they saw fit. So you're now at the point, just to kind of bring us, since we haven't really talked about it in this much detail since December, is you're now at the point where some of them look fine, some of them you're going to modify, and then there's some other ones that you just sent Russ that you want him to take a look at.
Correct.
Great.
Yeah.
And some from a select board standpoint, we're not, I think this speaks to your point about the relationship with the select board and the fire department, especially the fire chief, is we're not involved in crafting SOGs because that's how the fire department operates.
Right.
We just want to make sure they're in place from an administrative and a risk standpoint for the town.
Correct.
But we're not going to get involved in how you do
And
firework.
how we do the job.
How you
Yeah.
fold hoses,
Yeah,
or how,
exactly.
which truck goes out first, or
yeah.
anything like that, they just need to be in place. And from what I understand, given the 50 years of consistency and constancy, is that you guys have a way of doing it. This is just helping organize and document it
Correct.
so that it goes forward. You have the foundation
Right.
and it goes forward and it's documented.
Yeah.
And then also in the future, the select board is clear on what do they touch and what don't they touch, right? Because I think that came out in the survey answers
Oh, yes, it did. Yes, it did.
of not having the select
Yeah.
board.
And Russ has met with
Interfere.
us, and he has said both the good and the bad on both either the strong chief or the weak chief. And we have discussed it back and forth and back and forth.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest thing that I want to stress is that he has in here with either legislation, strong chief or weak chief.
Yeah.
He would suggest a contract or at least a letter of understanding that defines the authority, expectations with cause and process for grievances with the department and the town officials working in unison, okay?
Yep, this
So-
is page in the,
This is page 12 in the
Yep.
in the overview.
this is the option on top of
Yeah.
those two options.
So, like I said, the dynamic of how we function and how we operate, although it may have been antiquated, okay, and it was done by a set of bylaws that were adopted back in 1942, the town, from what we understand, never made a decision if the fire chief's position should be a strong chief or a weak chief. We have historically operated very democratic. There's a lot of interaction of the members in how the department functions and forms and whatnot. Not only do we train together, not only do we fight fires and respond to emergencies together, we work together to make sure we do the best we can for the town of Northfield, for its citizens and the property that we protect. And we want to make sure that dynamic doesn't change because the chief has changed, okay? We want to make sure that dynamic continues. We're extremely fortunate that we have the membership we have. A lot of communities are really struggling, and I think a lot of that is due to our training, our membership. I think a lot of that contributes to that, and so we want to make sure, and in all honesty, I want to make sure that it continues on long after long after I'm gone. So, so
Do you want,
down and dirty.
can I just interrupt for
Yes.
1 second? Does the board want Russ to just basically, would it be helpful for him to review the weak chief versus strong chief? Because I know the labels,
Yeah.
I know the fire department's super familiar with it at this point. I know the labels sound a little, you and I were like, can we just call the weak chief something else because it doesn't sound good?
Yeah.
But it's like
Yeah.
Russ, do you want to just give us an overview
Overview.
on quote unquote weak chief versus strong chief? Again, just for also for folks at home, because this might, one of the reasons why we're talking about it tonight is because if it goes on the warrant for the town meeting, then folks will need to understand this later. And I want to make sure everybody in this room understands it in talking with the rest of the town.
Sure. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Basically, the difference is the organization of the structure and who is sort of managing under the strong chief, if you would. The fire chief is the appointing authority. The fire chief can hire and fire, as deems necessary. He's responsible for all the purchasing. It's pretty much operating the fire department on an island with an occasional report to the select board. Obviously, finance is part of the same process. You have to get your approval, your finance approvals, typical with any procurement or any of that type of stuff. The big difference on what we call the weak chief, is that the select board takes more of a role in the actions of the department. They are the appointing authority, so they'd be responsible for the hiring and firing. And one of the big sticking points of the weak chief language is that most people don't like, is that the select board can remove a slogan that says they can remove at will. So when you get a select board and a fire staff that are butting heads, then now it becomes political instead of functional. And then that starts to erode some of it. So from what I've seen, you seem to be operating more as under the weak chief rules, because you were the appointing authority. But then we had the bylaws, so the fire department kind of ran the show under the bylaws. And what I guess I would suggest in either case that I mentioned was that you should have some sort of a letter of understanding or an employment contract that overlays on either one of them. And the reason being that I know I provided the actual laws there, but in the down and dirty version, the select boards typically do not like a strong chief, because they feel that they have lost any kind of control or input into the fire department. And should you get a fire chief that doesn't play well with others, then it becomes a very kind of an alienation of both boards, and you're not working together. The flip side of that is, in a strong chief, in a very progressive and active chief, he doesn't have the input of the board, and a lot can be accomplished. So a lot depends on the political flavor of the community. In the weak chief, the same is true. Or I should say, the opposite is true. So if there becomes politics involved, someone who's doing a really good job could be bumped out just because of that someone doesn't like them for whatever reason. Obviously, it needs a board vote and all of that, but it makes it very hard to manage any kind of organization when you don't feel that you're part of the team. So if you're a strong chief that has an adversarial board, you're not part of the team. If you're a weak chief and the board is adversarial, you're not part of the fire department team. So it goes both ways. So the goal is to opinion, this isn't a legal opinion, but my opinion is the fire chief's role is a division of the executive board, which is basically the select board. That is no different than the police chief and the DPW chief, and they're doing their jobs for the select board to facilitate their responsibilities to the town. Whatever position or whatever statute allows you to make that foster is what's right for your community. So if you are under, let's just call it the weak chief, and the fire chief and the select board have a great relationships and they're forecasting and they understand each other's challenges and they're moving forward, it all works. And as long as there's a, some sort of letter of understanding or something so that the chief knows where his guardrails are, and so does the select board, so that the select board knows where their guardrails are as well. Under the strong chief, I would also say the same thing is true, that the select board needs to know where its guardrails are and allows the fire department to do its job. And the fire chief at that point also needs to understand that the select board has a job to do. What I've heard in the past, and you hear it over and over again, is the fire chief and the select boards disagree on something, and the fire chief will say, "Well, I'm strong chief, you can't touch me." Well, that doesn't do anything for anybody, and it tells you that the system is falling apart. And the opposite can be true too, is that under the weak chief, the fire chief's trying to do something, and the select board takes an attitude, well, you can't tell us what to do. We're the bosses here, so you're going to do what we say. So what you want to have is a working together relationship and an understanding with guardrails of what the fire chief's expectation is and an expectation of what the select board is going to do to help the fire chief accomplish his or her goals. I don't know if that is clear or not, but that's my personal opinion.
That letter is kind of making essentially a hybrid condition where you're combining kind of the best of both worlds. I'd like to hear from you guys what you think.
Well, after much discussion, looking back and forth, and we have also looked at some departments who have gone from one to the other, what scares the daylights out of myself and the membership is if you don't get a good guy in there as a strong chief, you can cause all kinds of problems.
Yeah.
When the strong chief doesn't have to listen to the membership, doesn't have to follow what they think, or even what the select board sometimes may think, and does it his way, and excuse the phrase, damn everybody else, is not a good mix. Okay, so I'm going to pat myself on the back once. That's it, and it's over with. You've had a strong.
We're going to put it in the minutes.
You've had a strong chief that has actually worked very similar to what the weak chief does. Okay, and the board has worked alongside of me for years. Okay, 50. And the fire department.
5
almost. Okay. And I think as long as that interaction continues, and primarily the biggest thing is we submit to the select board in January a slate of our officers. We evaluate our officers. Our officers are not just fire ground officers. They also are responsible for cleanup duties. They're responsible for training. There's a lot of responsibility that an officer has to take in order to get the position. So we evaluate that, and we've done it every year, and we submit a list to the select board of what the fire department's recommendations are, knowing that you are the appointing authority. And for the most part, the select board has always followed what the recommendation of the members are. That is a weak chief, because the weak chief is not appointing directly. The select board have that authority. But as long as there's a working relationship between the board and the department, it has worked for 50 years. 49. But anyway. And it's worked very well. And I think that's a dynamic that we would ask that would continue, that you respect the request, you respect and take a look at what our recommendations are, give it consideration if there's any questions, but kind of honor that, because we don't just do it willy-nilly, and it's not from a popularity standpoint, it's who the guys trust to lead them, not only in fire situations, but also in the routine operations of the department. So between that and same thing with recruits, we put recruits through a pretty intensive training program. Then they are reviewed, and then the membership recommends to the board to appoint them. And as long as that type of working relationship is there, the department, with that understanding, if we can continue to have that kind of a working relationship between the board and the fire department, that they're more comfortable with the weak chief legislation.
Yeah. And frankly,
Okay.
I mean, your
And
training
it's-
practices, the proof's in the pudding. You guys have done exemplary work for all of those years. I would be interested, though, in seeing your draft of that
Yeah.
modifying
Well,
document.
Yeah, I wanted Russ to take a look at it, so, and then give me his input on that. It goes over the organization, and it goes over, just so you know, it covers the organization, covers our required meetings, it goes over committees that we have, it goes over any leave of absences. It actually adds to the, and it reflects back on Northfield's personnel policy, because we are employees. But there's some additional stuff that we wanted in there, as far as social and public media, how that's handled, and what the restrictions are for the members, so yeah, as soon as Russ, and I get together and kind of go over that, and then we've got to, basically, the standard operating guidelines, there's a lot of them that verbatim, what he has proposed is exactly what we do now, and
Yeah.
should be part of our written SOGs. There are some that we have to change and tweak a little bit, but we need to get some more work done at that point. But as soon as he comments and make any additions or whatever
And
in the draft.
on this part of this draft that Skip wrote up, and we chatted about this, that this parts of this might be more adept to the SOGs,
Yeah.
and part of this might be more for the town personnel policy, like almost having
Yeah.
a separate fire department spot in the personnel policy, because we are different from everybody, and between those two, I think everything would be covered. So it might be a little of
Yeah.
both.
Well, just so you know, what Skip and I had talked about, and Russ is also going to send us some outlines of that. The most important thing tonight was the weak chief versus
Yep.
strong chief, because
Yep.
there's a timeline
Correct.
associated with it. And we knew the SOGs and some of the other stuff would just take longer, so it's good to have this update. But what we had talked about was in that, on page 12, where it says an option to do an MOU or contract, to spell out
Yeah.
some of these things that, especially with Skip retiring, that were understood, is to spell those out. So, for example, one of his first concerns that he said to me when we went through it was that whole language that Russ had referred to in the weak chief, MGL. And, the deal is that old language is in that MGL, but firefighters are covered under employee laws just like other employees.
Which is
So
what
there
we
are
also
some
been chatting
things
about
where
that too, yeah.
you guys have some
Yeah.
things that are unique, and then there's other things that are easily covered by employment law
Right.
or personnel policy. And what we thought would be helpful for everyone was to specify that. So then everybody, especially with Skip having been there for 50 years, he knows that. Especially as the select boards change out over time, because we were talking about, I said to Skip, how many select board members have you worked with in 50 years?
Just a few. More than on one hand.
So we wanted to make sure that we put together documentation that meets all the concerns that you guys have laid out, and the concerns that, a select board should have, so that going forward, as things change out, people change off of the select board, or a new chief comes on board, it's captured and it builds on what was already done the first 50 years. So we're not looking to change a whole heck of a lot so much as document it, and I think you've said this, Skip, is bring it up into the 21st century.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
So like an assessment center, build on the whole training and review process that you guys go through. We're not going to specify how you train, but we are going to say, what's your process and is it documented? So that sort of thing. That's really what we're trying to do here. But the biggest thing was the weak chief, and it sounds like after several meetings, I know people have been thinking about this for a while, and it seems I just want to quiz the rest of the board too, because you and I have spoken. You know, I know, like Sarah, I was looking for what the fire department recommendation was going to be, but I wanted to see if anybody else on the select board had concerns or questions about weak chief versus strong chief, so that we can actually move this forward and get it onto the warrant, which closes at the end of March.
Well, the only thing I can say is it bodes well for both sides to work together, because we're all in this community, and I think it's working really well for the the fire department, because you guys are a volunteer fire department, which is, you have more volunteers than a lot of other towns have. So things are being done right. We just want to make sure going forward that whatever happens, you have something, a Bible, so to speak, to fall back on and work together. I cannot see, at least people here, where the select board would deny anything unless it was totally out of question that the fire department would want to bring forth. So,
David?
You gotta love these old New England towns. Apparently there's skeletons in the town, and there's been some rub between the board and your department, and I don't know where that comes from. I don't know the history of that. I'm certainly not a participant in that. I am completely inclined to. All my years of management told me, if your department works, I'm not fixing it. I'm not inclined to touch it at all. Doing SOGs and SOPs and documenting that and going through all that rigmarole, I get it, times are changing. I guess my question would be, and maybe this is a question for you, Russ, or you guys, strong or weak, if whatever is decided goes sideways, what's the mechanization to flip it to the other one?
Another town meeting.
Warrant town meeting.
Another town meeting.
Warrants on a town
Okay, so
meeting
we're not
floor.
stuck with it.
No, this is not forever.
So-
If like you said, Dave, if this goes sideways, or there are issues, then you bring it before the townspeople and say, we've tried to weak chief, there's been issues, and now it's time to consider the strong chief. So it's a town meeting vote is what determines it.
So I'm inclined, from my chair, is to say, whatever your department wants, I would sign off on that, because it works. I've seen it work. I've met a couple of your guys. The processes seem to work. Your response times are great. You get all the accolades in the world from other departments. I have nothing but good things to say about it. Happy that you're being able to turn this over in the shape that it's in. But if you guys decide on a weak chief with some clarifications and some delineations, I would sign off on that in a second.
Bernie?
Yeah.
Just 2 seconds to
Oh, yeah, Russ.
kind of respond to that. One of the, if you're looking at a concern, that applies to strong chief or weak chief. If the chief's not doing their job, no matter what position that is, the select board needs the tools to correct the problem, whether that's, some sort of progressive discipline, some sort of whatever. Things aren't working out, no matter what. If you're a strong chief or a weak chief, you want a tool like a contract or an employment understanding letter to, again, keep everybody in the guardrails. You want performance. Doesn't matter what the label is.
Thanks, Russ.
Yeah, I like the idea of a memorandum of understanding, so that we have stuff spelled out, So, when the select board does change, we have a memorandum of understanding. It's not like, well, since we have 2 new members, say, things shouldn't change. We should, you know, the town's gonna vote on this. And, you know, so I do like that. You know, and I'm of the thought that, you know, the fire department does a great job. I don't wanna mess that up. I just wanna make sure we keep checks and balances. And like Russ had said here, some of these things need to be documented better
Yes.
to protect the town.
Yeah.
And that, and I wanna see, that's our job, is to protect the town.
Right.
Just wanna see that done, and as long as we have a memorandum of understanding, I'm fine with leaving it like it is.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else, Sarah?
No, I think the continuity is the main issue, and
Yeah.
they're gonna handle it this way.
Yeah.
So, great.
Okay. So,
I just want to
Skip.
interject one thing.
yeah, go ahead.
I've been appointed every year for a long time, as well as some of our officers have been appointed every year. And the other reason the department felt as though week chief was the way to go is because their appointments come up before the public annually. It's not a bad thing, okay? To see the working relationship between the department and the select board. And I've never been afraid of not being appointed, or I've never been afraid of not doing due diligence on my job. And I foresee that should continue. But we like the process where it is announced, and every January, everybody knows the members, everybody knows the officers, and the ranking and whatnot. It's good for, I think it's good for the department as well. And so that was a strong reason that they opted for the week chief.
And you're not, I'm gonna state the obvious, you're not putting somebody in front of the select board that you wouldn't recommend, because it reflects back on
It's
the department.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's who these guys work for.
Right.
And who these guys and gals, excuse me.
Yes.
And who they trust, that they're gonna be looking out for them as well.
Yeah.
So
And
it's, yes.
I'm sorry.
No, go.
You paused and I thought you
No,
were done. So is the next chief, how is that gonna be handled? Is that gonna be brought by the fire department to us?
Probably be a recommendation.
Well, that's part of the discussion
Yeah.
too, were
Yeah,
the different
yeah,
models.
yeah,
So we're going to have more discussions. It was more to like take a pause on, because there's quite a few things that you guys have accomplished. You created the 501c3, for example, that was a
Yeah.
recommendation.
Yeah.
So you and I are going to update the task list and then update the select board again, because there's been progress made on several fronts.
Yeah.
I know the one that came up for the finance committee, we talked about doing, and Mike was there too, we talked about the, breaking out some accounts.
Yes.
And Russ had some recommendations in
Yeah.
there, so
Yeah.
that's an easy one to get done.
Yeah.
You guys also put in more money for, talk just a little bit, I know we're running over a little. The record system that you guys are already,
Records management. We had to transition from the fire incident reporting system. That was the Massachusetts Fire Incident Reporting System, that some of the information went to the federal government. That is no longer in place. We had to go to NERIS, which is a National Fire Incident Reporting System. And we could go directly and do input, but there were some issues and some legalities that weren't necessarily covered if we go direct. So anything we report is public record and can be utilized as a public record. So, and the other issue is, moving forward, if we were gonna retain our records, we had to make photocopies of a whole lot of record keeping, okay? We stayed with a company that we have been doing our MFers through, and that all transitions over to them as far as NERIS is concerned. So, we have contracted with ESO to do our NERIS reporting will be done through them. They have several other modules that will help us do record keeping in regards to personnel, training and whatnot. So that will be expanding. I did go before the finance committee and asked for an update as far as covering that in this next budget year. And that's why, and we can build upon that moving forward.
Good.
So it's a
The
big
other
step
thing
forward.
ESO does is it, one, because it's the same company, all the record keeping we've been doing gets
Brought over.
instantly put into this new one, so we
Yes.
don't lose anything.
Yeah.
And they do our 7-year record keeping in the
because-
cloud, so we don't have to have paper copies.
Yeah.
Because the town can get a request for public records, how easy is it to get that records if someone was to get it? It's digitalized, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
digital.
You guys have
Yeah.
records to that, or is it a cloud that,
It's a cloud-based.
Okay.
It's a cloud-based.
all right,
And there's different parts of the record that can be redacted
okay.
legally. Okay.
Who would do the
So-
redacting, you? Or who would?
ESO.
Okay,
ESO.
oh, okay,
That's what we pay them for.
okay, so, public records request comes in for a fire. We would maybe contact you first just to let you know what's going on.
yeah,
You would tell us
yeah.
what to do,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
the record could go to that person who's looking
Right.
for it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that has to be done within 10 days, or 10 days?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
yeah. And
Yeah.
the other thing is, it
Yeah.
gives you more data on your calls and who some of your frequent flyers are,
Yeah.
so to speak,
Yeah.
right? Because EMS uses it to tell us about the calls and the distribution of calls, the type of calls. So that's always instructive, especially if, you know, you have one large customer, so to speak, that, you know, we might want to reach out to.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not going to mention any names, but you know who I'm thinking. Okay.
All right.
All right, so we'll leave it at that.
Yes.
We're going to update, you and
Yeah.
I, with Russ and Andrea's help,
Yeah.
we're going to update the
Yeah.
task list for everybody,
Yeah.
figure out what's left, so we're managing your time, right? And then we'll go from there.
And
So
we'll
I
work- the team
have
will
it,
work together.
you're kind of
Yeah.
like perpetually on the proposed agenda topics list as these things get
Yes.
completed, so.
I do have a question, though.
Yeah,
How soon does he have to get that so we can put it on the town warrant?
It's
Can do it?
on tomorrow,
Good.
if that's their
Okay. Just- yeah.
consensus.
Okay.
That's our.
we can take a vote if
Well,
that's,
you'll
Okay,
get the
all
warrant.
right,
that's right, and then we'll do the recommendation on the
Right,
warrant
I do a
too.
draft
Yep.
warrant, and they have to approve it anyway.
yeah, perfect, just, all right.
Okay,
And Russ, you and I need to spend some time together.
I'll give you a call tomorrow.
All right.
And I don't know what your week or next week looks like, but I'm pretty open, so.
Okay. I'll fill up a little bit of it.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Russ.
Thanks, Russ.
Yeah, I just one real quick
Yep.
comment. I haven't really talked to the whole board for a little bit, but one of the things I think that is a sticking point is actually a very positive comment in that the department has tremendous ownership in their department from all of the members. And I know Skip and the deputy have mentioned this before, that, they talked, they met, they went back and forth, and I've had the pleasure of meeting with a few of them, and they threw some great questions, and it's because they care. And you don't see that much anymore. A lot of these organizations, especially the volunteers, have become a punch the clock type of thing. But I hats off to Northfield and their ability to want to do this right. They recognize that they need to modernize the membership and kind of take it to the next step. And I'm glad to help them, but the foundation's there, which is very positive. So I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, thank you, that's all. Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Okay.
Report.
Yeah,
Thanks, guys.
okay, let's go back.
Maybe you should do this while they're all here.
Sorry.
Wait, before you guys all leave,
Whoa,
wait,
whoa,
hold,
whoa,
can you
hold
have
on.
them come back for a
Oh.
second?
Come back, gentlemen. Gentlemen,
I just think maybe
No.
while they're all
Yeah.
no, we changed your mind. Come on back.
He already, he has that, I just,
We're-
Right.
There's more
No,
fun.
no, no. One little thing here.
you keep that, that's our copy. That's-
No, I know, but maybe Skip wants to
We
refer
did.
to it.
Okay,
You're off.
We just wanted to, because we have a
I
recognition
think
of
it's in your
service.
mail too.
It was in our packets.
Before they
We usually
leave,
do recognition of service at the end of the meeting, but one of them refers to fire and emergency personnel, everybody who was involved with the Amtrak incident. So Skip, do you want to just give us an overview so we can do the recognition of service while you're all here, which is nice.
Thanks for coming back, guys.
Yeah, sorry about that.
On January 27th, we had an Amtrak train that derailed just as it was coming into town. We got a call for a derailment of the Amtrak passenger train. It occurred at a switch that was in the north end of town, which combines what used to be B&M Railroad and Central Vermont Railroad. The switch froze and derailed the engine in the first car. Luckily, it was a low speed because of the conditions out there. But Amtrak did send a letter to myself. If you want, I can quickly
If you want
read
to,
it.
yeah,
read it.
it's your,
Chief Donnell, on behalf of the Amtrak Police Department and the National Railroad Passenger Corporation, I'd like to commend your fire and emergency personnel for their exceptional dedication and outstanding service during the Amtrak derailment that occurred on January 27th. Your first responders arrived at the scene promptly and with urgency. They established a secure perimeter, cleared several feet of snow to create a path around the train, enabling safe access for all personnel. They conducted welfare checks on the crew members and passengers to ensure their safety, set up essential equipment and lighting for the duration of the response, and constructed a makeshift step stool to facilitate safe deboarding for passengers. Additionally, they assisted with head counts against the manifest, supported every passenger during deboarding in extremely challenging winter conditions, and escorted them safely to nearby buses without any incidents, slips, or falls. They also helped remove all the luggage and bags from the train and transfer them to the buses. Your team remained on site from the moment they received the initial call until the scene was officially cleared, continuing to work diligently in bitterly cold and snowy conditions. Jason Sedin, Amtrak Road Foreman, personally confirmed how instrumental your team's efforts were throughout the incident. Without their invaluable assistance and close partnership, the response would not have proceeded as smoothly or effectively as it did. We are deeply grateful for their professionalism and commitment. Sincerely, James Cook.
Nice.
Absolutely.
I would like
Gentlemen.
to say that it was a joint effort, as most incidences in Northfield are. We had complete support with the police department, keeping the area clear of onlookers. They also helped us stage the buses that had to come in and transfer the victims. Northfield Highway moved a mountain of snow so we could get access to the train cars. And they actually helped not only move a mountain of snow, but they also helped with shovels to clear an area so that we could safely transfer the passengers from the train onto awaiting buses. So it was a joint effort, and I'm proud of the department. But this is the norm. This is what we do. They weren't town residents, but they were passing through our town.
I welcomed all to Massachusetts as I was walking up and down the train.
Right?
So, I wanted to make a copy of this for the select board, so, very, very proud.
that will go into the record.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well done.
thank you.
Nice.
Thank you again, gentlemen.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Now you can go.
Now you can go. Thank you.
Just popped in my head before they left.
Thank you. I'm glad you did that.
That's true.
Okay, let's bang through the warrants and the minutes. No,
Okay,
more talking after the meeting than during the meeting.
okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
I move that we approve the payroll warrant on 3/4/2026 of $106,888.29.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I move that we approve the vendor warrant of 3/4/2026 of $201,947.78, which included real estate refunds, snow removal, vehicle repairs, encumbrance, community compact EMS, emergency services building, among other things.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I move that we approve the payroll warrant for 3/18/2026 of $105,606.62.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
I move that we approve the vendor warrant for 3/18/2026 of $383,389.83. That includes the Franklin County Tech assessment, encumbrance, and health insurance.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, minutes.
I move that we approve the minutes of 2/17/2026.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great. Okay.
Check, check, check.
Check. Look at me checking. Check. Okay, and we did, okay, now we're going to discuss the support for the town of Irving's Eco One-Stop application, which has to do with, I think what they're doing is putting a bridge in, but it's officially labeled the Keyup Brook Watershed, sorry. Nature-based solutions assessment and design project. So,
Just because it starts up in Northfield.
correct. And when I did a little Google on it, I noticed FERCog worked with, I think it was Open Space, on Keyup Brook, on some sort of assessment for Keyup Brook in Northfield. So this is a nice
Continuation.
follow-on to that. And
And they're coming to a conscom tomorrow night. That's the one that I.
oh, fantastic. Okay, good. We're connecting all the
Right.
dots. So it's a relatively straightforward letter, and we really like to support our neighboring towns when they do have a project, especially the fact that it affects.
Is that, do you want all of us to sign or just the head?
Yeah. So I need a motion to sign that letter of support. I think it has all of the signatures on there. Wait, that's topics. Go
So
ahead.
moved. To accept the letter
And sign
and
it.
sign it.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right. Oh, here it is, it's on the back. Okay. There we go.
Thank you, sir. You know he signed it? Oh, you want to be last.
Well, it's gonna come back this way anyway.
He needs a lot of room for his signature.
I need more. I had to make them.
David just draws a straight line, so.
I make the whoosh noise.
Let me see.
See, that's his signature, it's a straight line.
Upward and to the right, so there's some hopefulness in there too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, thank
I
you.
compared last week and this week just to see if it's the same.
It's not.
Does it vary?
Yes.
Okay, and now we're going to do the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection, environmental what am I saying?
Preferable procurement.
Yeah, thank you.
Where are your glasses?
I
Getting a headache too. Do you want to just explain why we're re-signing?
Turns out when.
Is the format not
Yeah, you
the
already
problem?
signed one. Yes. The person who helps us oversee this so that we can apply for the yearly grants for recycling. So we have to post these, and this is an update, but that's through the Solid Waste Management District. Realized that the last one they sent out was missing one small provision that is required by Mass DEP to be part of the procurement policy.
Oh,
So
shoot.
they resent it. It's nothing that affects us in terms of change in practice or anything, but we want to have the most up-to-date one on there so we can continue to receive those grant funds. Those are the ones that they get for the recycling, which they saved for many years. For example, built the new transfer station shed. So
Okay.
those grant funds are pretty
And
useful.
Useful, yep.
And we've labeled our policy a sustainable purchasing policy. So I need a motion to sign the latest version of the sustainable purchasing policy.
Right, you've had one on the website for years, this is
Right.
just updating.
Right.
And it just means that we look for sustainable things, but it doesn't bind us into any
And
specific
sustainable
purchase.
practices
Right.
in our purchasing.
Yep. Minimize waste, prioritize reuse, things like that, support recycling markets, conserve natural resources, and minimize environmental impacts. Okay,
So moved.
thank you.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay,
Aye.
more signatures.
While we're doing that, let's talk FERC.
And then FERC, you have the letter. FERC meaning the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, so the final environmental impact statement. Final meaning, we're nearing the end of the 13-plus year long process. So there were the comments that, I just did a one-pager. When Joe spoke to us, Joe Gravlin,
Yeah.
and he wrote a multi-page, which does regularly, and for him, we should be grateful. But what I did was refer to his letter, and then there was also a submittal by Tori Lookshop from the Conservation Commission, so I referred to that as well. Most of the comments came back in August when they were doing the draft environmental impact statement. I'm not sure how FERC is going to respond to some of these comments, but the key thing, what I've always said, is we need to stay engaged in the process, because as soon as we lose interest and drop out, that's when stuff gets through. So as whatever that next step is, I will let you guys know, and that's why I keep that also as a perennial, well, it's even more than perennial, like monthly topic on the permanent, almost permanent topic on the proposed agenda list, because the update, there will be an update probably in a few months, and then
So when
I'll
we
put
get
that
to
on.
the end, okay, is there something that we would sign, recommend, or not recommend, or do we
No,
even
we've
have
done,
that?
we've done all
I
of
know.
that leading up to this
I know.
point. It's all in the, in FERC's hands on, with respect to what they want to do for the license for First Light to operate on the Connecticut River.
So we've done just about all we have can do at this particular time, is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay,
Correct, but
yeah, it's not,
you know, it's every few months I need to come back in with an update.
Sure.
And sometimes it's more loaded in terms of the content, especially last summer. This time, it's more loaded in terms of the timing and the fact that we're at the end of the process, so it's a significant milestone, but less in terms of commentary, because we did a lot of that last summer. So that's the update. I'll keep you posted. Okay, and let's see, the same thing, it's just an update on the Patchogue Shell Bridge grant update that was finished with our MassDOT Dream Team. And they did, not only did they do all the elements of the complicated federal grant process, the problem with it, or the challenge with it, is each part of the federal grant process has different documentation requirements, and so they get submitted in pieces. And we felt that it was, the recommendation, especially from one MassDOT person, was he felt the narrative was so strong regarding economic development, safety, recreation, that he asked that the document from all the individual pieces be put together as one document. So then that could be used for more economic development grant opportunities potentially. So they've gone ahead and done that. It's a pretty thick document, so I didn't want to put it in a PDF, but we can, if you want, print it out so you guys can take a look and read through some of the narrative on the project and what they're applying for. We won't hear probably until, I think it's like June or July, if I remember correctly,
Fall.
for fall.
It'll be early fall, I think.
If we're lucky, we might hear something in early summer, because we ended up doing a debrief in September, if I remember correctly.
October last.
Yeah.
So I think we usually hear by mid to late summer at the earliest, maybe even early September,
Okay.
depending on when they do it.
So do you guys want a printout of that? I think it would be helpful.
I'm wondering if we should have
Or do you want a
one
PDF?
one
Just have a
for,
binder
keep it
there.
at town hall
Yeah,
if we
another
could. one maybe get to the library, and then one so that we can pass it around or something, or more.
Yeah, I don't think we each individually need one.
If
That
it's
would be a waste of
I'll
resources.
take a PDF.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
It's easy.
Well, again,
There's pieces though, did you, I'll have to look at it, yeah.
No, they put it,
There's a,
I think
You're
there
talking about
should
the whole
nevertheless be
document?
one printed downstairs for the citizens.
you're talking about the whole document, including all the letters of suggestion, or you're just talking
Yeah,
the narrative
I
piece?
think it'd be helpful to see the amount of support that we got too, and the fact that southeastern Vermont and southwestern New Hampshire are very interested in what this does for the tri-state region. If we can get recreation kind of grouped for Vermont towns, New Hampshire towns, and for Northfield, this has benefit for the whole region.
So if you had a hard copy that I could lend out, or if we can put it on the website too, that people can get at, but.
Well, I want to make sure that we all understand it, because there's some economic development language in there that will be useful as we're going forward if you guys see other opportunities. We also talked with, I can't remember his name, right? Aaron Vega. He's the president of the Western Mass Economic Council. We talked about having him come up to Northfield and talk through economic development with us. So
So what I'm gonna say, you had a summary part, right? It was thinner?
Well, there's the narrative part without all the attachments. You're talking, there is that small piece, but.
I would put that out to the website, and then if you wanted to get a hard copy that we could keep in town hall,
pull the
if
PDF
they
and
read
see
it and
how-
want to come and see more, we would, I wouldn't say lend it out, because if we only have one copy.
Yeah, just have it
And
down
do
on
it
the
that,
desk.
yeah.
or something.
yeah, I just want to make sure we're reading it as a select
Oh,
board as
well,
well.
yeah, I
Okay,
mean, yeah.
so if you guys want PDFs, we can make that happen.
I can, yeah, get my
I guess
email
I
up
need
to date and we'll be good.
I
Do
need
you
it
want a
printed.
printout?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if we have one here, I'll see it anyway.
I like a printout. There's some stats, there's some really good economic development stats.
But I don't need my
Yeah.
own. I can just come look at one.
Yeah,
so I just need
that's true.
access to one.
Okay, well, when that's printed out, we will let everybody know.
Perfect.
Okay. There's one, I'm just going to point out, there's one good section in there where the economic development person did a lot of stats between the potential for Northfield compared to the Noratuck Bike Trail, if you're familiar with that in Northampton. It comes off of
Noratuck.
Damon Road, and it goes over the railroad bridge. It goes through Hadley and down into South Amherst. That was the comparison point. And if this project goes through, both of those bike trails would be in the same state park, the Connecticut
Across Connecticut, yeah.
Connecticut River State Greenway State Park, I think it's called. So we'll be the northernmost point in the DCR family that lives along the Connecticut River, which is great because that kind of really fills in a recreational gap up here. Okay, so we can check that off. Okay, budget calendar update, we put that in there was a few snow days. So we had one snow day, the finance committee had 2 snow days. So the calendar got updated, and we're going to end up with what's coming up is a joint meeting with the finance committee. The first meeting in April,
Right, the warrant closes
March
at your
31st.
select board meeting on the 31st.
So the next select board
Why is
meeting.
it closing so early?
To get it printed.
Well,
Oh.
they have to, if anybody's going to submit anything that has any money in it, because they can do that, that changes the entire budget. And the warrant has to be printed and posted by April 20th. So really, that's only 3 weeks that we'd have to take that back to the finance committee. They'd have to reconsider that. And then we have to get it, I have to type the whole warrant out, I have to balance all the financials. So if anybody submits anything,
Well,
and then it has to go to
yeah.
legal for review. So we send this to legal, which takes a few
this
days
seems
to-
early, but it's not. This
It's
is
not
normally.
really.
Yeah.
No.
We'll be finishing up, I think, the finance committee next week.
Okay.
Pretty
You
much
have to,
done
you
there.
guys sign it by the 20th or 21st of your meetings. So really, that's only 3 weeks from the day you close it, to actually sign it and post it.
Oh, we're almost
That's
into
not-
April at this rate. Okay.
Right, that's not really
Yeah.
that's not really that fast. That's really
Okay.
actually a tight time frame.
Yep. Okay.
So, right, so the joint meeting right now with the select board would be Tuesday, the April 7th, for the finance committee to come and sort of
Go over the warrant.
hand off the budget that they're recommending
Well,
to the select
yeah,
board.
we
and-
gotta go through the warrant articles and do our recommendations.
Yes, you do that
too.
on the,
Yeah.
you'll do that, but this would at least be them saying, here's the budget we have. Any questions? I mean, you'll obviously see it because we'll send it to you, but that's their sort of handoff, that joint meeting where they speak to
Right.
what their recommendations
And
are.
we want to hear what the finance committee's take on the budget is this year, especially with healthcare insurance increases.
So
Yeah.
that's them
And
coming to
the
you.
school as well, the
We
school
have
budget.
we have a meeting on Thursday with the three towns to see
Yes.
how they're feeling about the schools.
Finance
too.
committee
Yeah.
and select board, you're both posted
Yes, for that meeting.
For Thursday night.
for that.
meeting.
Well, we have a
three-town-
different meeting.
And we haven't, are you going, who's going to the 3-town?
I'll be there
This
for.
Thursday?
Yeah.
I'll go.
Bernie, are you going?
If I get back in time.
Okay. Because Sarah and I have another meeting at
I know
5:30.
that, Robin will be there, I'm pretty sure. Your wife will be there and Gail will be there, right? Your wife will.
Okay.
Yeah, Bernie was good. So a
Right.
good portion of the finance
My
committee will
wife's
be
gonna
there.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, your other
Dan
half.
says my wife's gonna be
Maybe
there.
you better give her a
Your other
ride.
half. Yes.
Good to know,
Good
thanks.
to
make it-
know. I look forward to seeing her.
Since the finance committee of Northfield was the ones that kind of asks for it to be,
Yeah.
so.
So I'm just saying, I don't think there'll be a select board, well, there could be if Bernie goes. So
Oh,
you're going
three
to
of
have to
us.
call it to order.
If I get
If
there.
there's 3, if you get
If I
there.
get there,
Otherwise,
yeah.
it's not going to be a
no,
quorum.
No.
Yeah, okay. All right, resignation, what? Assistant Town Clerk Dan Campbell?
Yeah, going again,
You're,
finally.
you're going to actually retire?
I'm gonna retire for a couple of things, so.
Okay. So we need to accept your
My
resignation?
resignation? Doesn't mean I won't help out if somebody really gets into a
Well,
bind.
you're still on the select board, so
Yeah.
we still got you. Okay.
How long have you been in that position?
As a town clerk or
Assistant.
assistant town clerk?
No, the town clerk.
Town
in
clerk
that office.
and that office
All combined.
since 2014.
No, thanks for your service.
Yeah. Thank you.
I've been on finance for 30 years, almost, no, 26 years.
Wow. That's a
So,
lot of service. We appreciate it.
Absolutely.
All right, but unfortunately, we have to entertain a motion to accept the resignation of Assistant Town Clerk Dan Campbell, effective June 5th. Do we have that right?
yep,
Okay.
So move.
Second?
All those in favor?
aye.
Aye.
You're gonna aye on your own?
Aye.
You vote for yourself on that one?
I'm retiring, yeah.
He looks a little too happy.
Since that's really only we've got May, April, so 8 weeks, 9 weeks away.
Uh-oh.
I'm going
I
to
would.
start the process, well, it's not going out right away, but I'm going to start the process of drawing up an ad and everything, so we will want at least one select board member to be part of the hiring process.
Okay.
Can we add to the agenda? I mean, I'd like to have a conversation about the rule in general, because I think that we have a full
Rule of retirement or
no,
resignation?
of the town clerk.
She's
You're
not
you're talking
full-time.
about hiring a new town
Assistant.
clerk, a new assistant,
She's
and we
not
have
40 hours. So
Okay.
just so you know, she isn't full-time, but yeah.
because I think that one way to before Dan, you were full time, right?
No,
Before
No, oh, when I was town
before
clerk, yeah.
when you were town clerk.
Yeah,
So one way to, I mean, if we had somebody who we could give a yearly stipend and have them be on call, and they would get the hourly rate when they needed to come in for an emergency, but we wouldn't have a full salaried, we wouldn't have a position.
Probably 10 hours a week, 8 hours a week.
yeah, 10 hours, 10. The only time it gets a little bit more is around election time.
Right.
And it's the fourth year.
It's
the
not even
local-
every 10
yeah.
hours. Sometimes
you
you work
average.
less because then
Sometimes
you
I
work a
work
lot more
8,
during the
sometimes, yeah.
All right, well, we'll talk
Or
about,
if there's a vacation, then I have to
maybe
work
we
full
need
time.
to
Right, and then
update-
somebody could come on for.
maybe we need to do an update on town clerk and assistant town clerk positions.
Yeah, it's not just,
Okay.
yeah, we just have to be careful because it's got a lot of training requirements. It's not just a volunteer.
Yep.
There's
So-
a lot
right.
of laws
We're just
involved
doing-
that has to be.
Yeah, I know,
covered.
but we're just doing resignation tonight, so we'll add that, that overview.
Thank you, sir.
Review, overview. Okay, and then Devin, Vandermatt, resignation of Recreation Commission, from the Recreation Commission.
Summer
Devin,
program.
as a summer program counselor.
Yeah.
He's done a few things for us. Devin now has a full-time job, so,
Good for him.
yeah, it is. It's nice to see him taking on different things. All right, so I'll entertain a motion to accept the resignation, regretfully on both parts, by the way, of Devin Vandermatt.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. All right, citizen concerns.
I have one.
Sarah Kearns, Highland Ave. So I have a concern. I've watched several recent meetings where the pay of the highway department supervisor has come up. And we've spent a lot of time, the town has spent a lot of time talking about being an employer of choice. And all hourly employees get a step raise every couple of years, but this one employee who is the chair of this, the supervisor of this department, has not gotten so in 4 years. One of the concerns that people have raised to me outside of this room, just other citizens talking about it, is that he was, that our current supervisor was paid more than other town employees, but I did a record search and found that that is not accurate. The base pay of the highway department supervisor is $97,000. That doesn't include overtime hours for snow removal. The base pay of the police supervisor is $110,000, EMS $109,000, and the town administrator $122,000. The actual pay, that's fiscal year 2025, the actual pay for 2025 for the police is $147,000, and for the highway department $117,000. So demonstrably, this is not the highest paid employee. And I believe to be an employer of choice, we need to follow the same rules for everybody. We need to honor someone. This is someone who's been in the town for over 20 years, 24 years, and has, by all accounts, done excellent work, even just now in the Amtrak thing.
Oh, Sarah, I'm
Yeah.
just going to pause right there. Let's be careful from an employee standpoint. Even if you're not using names, if it's obvious who the employee is and you start talking about performance, regardless of your comments as a citizen, you're still a select board member and you're also an employer. And that's been the difficulty in this topic.
Well,
all along. So just be careful and just finish up. You've got like another minute. Just be careful on the employee front.
That we've seen someone who's worked in the town, and I've seen it discussed on the videos of these meetings, someone who's worked in the town for 24 years and
so again, just careful to identify
has
characteristics.
Well, we just need to know that someone isn't getting the same step improvements that to their salary that other people are. And I saw that it was brought up to the select board on these recordings. I watched that asking for it to be discussed repeatedly, and it hasn't been discussed. And it needs to be something, any change in that is something that the select board would discuss. So I request that the select board would discuss this, because we as a town have said, and the select board has stated multiple times, that they believe that we should be an employer of choice, and you're not an employer of choice if you punish people for their loyalty.
Thank you, Citizen Kearns. Okay.
Topic. Reasonable topic 24.
Yep. Just taking a moment. Thank you.
There is something that has come up that may affect us as far as doing that. I don't know if everybody's aware of it, but the tech school is no longer in operation because their electrical has gone down, so they're forcing all their students at this point
Oh,
to work from home. They don't know how long it's gonna take them to get back up and running. I don't know if.
all right, let's put
you've
that
heard-
under announcements.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
thank
So,
you.
yeah.
Okay, I didn't realize that was happening. Okay, committee and board appointments. I'll entertain a motion to appoint Martha Tenney as an election officer, term expiring August 15th,
So moved.
2026.
Second.
I got a so moved
So
from
moved.
Sarah and
Second.
okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And then a request to appoint Libby Volkening to the Grandin Water District. Thank you, Libby, for stepping forward. Term expiring June 30th, 2027.
Second.
So moved?
So.
So moved from you and a
Yeah,
second
so
from-
moved or whatever. either
Discussion
way.
on the motion?
Yes, is this to take the place of the person that was running for the?
No.
Okay, because we
This is,
don't.
we have one that's appointed by the select
Okay,
board,
so this is
and
the
that's been
appointed one.
vacant. Yeah.
Okay, because there is a vacancy for the elected person that did not pass at the nonpartisan caucus that was asked for.
No one ran.
No
You're
one
saying
ran.
there's going to be an open seat after the election.
Peter Weiss didn't,
No. No one
No.
is nominated.
That doesn't mean he can't be, get a write-in, but nobody came forward and what's today? No papers were taken out. They had until today. So,
didn't we nominate Peter Weiss to the Grandin Water District?
not at the,
Didn't
not
we
at
switch to
caucus.
the other, there's a new person who took the nomination, I thought. There are now two people.
No, that's
Peter
sewer.
Weiss switched with somebody else.
Oh,
Again,
let's
And he was
clarify.
at the meeting and didn't run. and
yeah,
didn't
he was
put his name.
there, he was there, right?
All right,
Yeah.
well, let's clarify that. But anyway, we're taking care of Libby, so
Yep,
let's make
okay.
sure we've got
All
that
right.
nailed down. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Libby. All right. Okay, goodness. Announcements. There will be a nuisance dog hearing scheduled, which is already scheduled for Tuesday, so a week from today, March 24th, 2026 at 6 p.m. There's a packet for you all on the select board. Okay, and then there's a Hold the Foam event, Saturdays in April at the transfer station
For styrofoam.
for styrofoam. So hold your foam, bring it in April.
It's not one of those fun foam rooms, fun runs.
Okay, and then recognition for service, we already took care of that.
Yay.
So I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
The dog hearing is going to be held here?
Yep.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Yep.
So moved. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
You too quick.